Well, and you heard my clip by Cliff Stearns. He was feeling the heat from his people down in Florida, and he went after Hank Paulson with a vengeance. You know, I'm hoping here that we find more people in our Congress critters have a little bit more backbone, because I'm going to tell you what, next voting cycle, if there is one, there's going to be a lot of these clowns that aren't going to be there.
Well, like you said, I know that Richard Mack can really awaken some people that have otherwise been in that left-right paradigm. And I got a question for Bob. Is there anything else that he thinks or you think we can do as this economy tightens and it seems to shift more from residential real estate into commercial real estate taking the stress?
Well, it takes it further out of your hands, really. It also causes dramatic problems for lenders, which are banks. And so this problem that they have with balance sheet debt is going to get very, very much worse. And so there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And so at least over the next year, a year and a half, these banks are going to be under tremendous pressure. And the money that's going to have to be pumped out by the Fed to keep the system floating, if you may. And we just heard that from Mr. Paulson when he was being interrogated. And that's the right word to use, incidentally, in this case. And the Treasury is scrambling, running all over the place like the Mad Hatter, trying to get enough money for the purchase of their Treasury bills and notes.
And, can I extrapolate that out to take you as saying that if you have a business...
Hang on one second, Russ. We've got to take this break. I don't know if you can hear the music or not. 800-313-9443 is the number. We'll be right back.
You're tuned in to the National Intel Report, the real talk radio show.
We are back. Russ, go ahead.
How's this sound for a flyer to be distributed at the police station? Sheriff Richard Mack, the author of The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, will be speaking tonight at the Addison Maydragon Restaurant. Attend if you dare and find out what your superiors don't want you to know.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly right in their face.
Well, that's the whole idea, you know. I mean, if we can get, just a percentage of the police officers to understand that their job is to protect the citizenry and not protect the elite criminals, then maybe that's a step in the right direction.
All right.
Thank you very much for the time,
John.
John.
On the floor of the House by Marge Kapner, and she says these people are crooks. They're criminals.
Henry in Connecticut. Hello, Henry.
Hello. A couple of things. One is I heard you saying earlier about saying this is the greatest country in the world and something and so and so and so, but let me just ask you, have you ever been to other countries, though, at all?
Yeah, I have.
All right, what countries? I mean, quickly, you know.
Well, Germany, Switzerland, France.
Germany, Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Switzerland. Well, let me ask you, what outside of the constitutional part, that's one part. I always said, and I tell people this all the time, the only greatest thing about this country at all is its Constitution. It certainly is not all this other crap that they push Americans to either live up to or force down their throat, whether it's the fact that we even have more moral stuff than even over there in Europe or Australia, the fact that we have more diversity, like what they're trying to force down our throat for 50 years or whatever, than in Europe, although I know it's happening there in England and France, too, by the same people. I always tell people that all the time. But I was just curious, outside of the constitutional part, what else would you say where this country is, let's say, better than Switzerland or Germany? Outside of the hate crime laws in Germany, I have a problem with.
Are we talking present day or the founding documents, and we've documented on this network the root causes of why things have gone wrong? If you're talking about the general philosophy of which this country is supposed to be based.
Oh, you mean 200 years ago?
Well, hey, I got news for you.
100 years, something years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad in this country even 50 years ago. You know, you didn't have rampant crime. You didn't have the criminality that
Oh, sure, you had crime. You had the Wild West, 1880s out in Kansas City. You had shootings all the time. I mean, it was more the bad guys.
Henry, what's your point here?
All right. Well, I'm more comparing to not just present day. I would say even 20 years ago compared to Europe. Not only, what about the social implications in this country compared to Europe? But there's a lot of celebrities that are non-communist that, they have a lot of money, so they can have a mansion there, they can have a mansion in Switzerland, they can have a mansion here or whatever.
Right.
And, Johnny Depp, he's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, he lives in France.
Yeah, right. I would live in France. I think they're slower than Germanic countries. But he made some comments, and they weren't like the Constitution stuff, but he was talking socially with this country. I agree with him. I don't remember exactly what he said. But and the fact this country is all stuck up, but though it's not ones in his age group or my age group, it's more, at least I sense from 20 years of listening to radio, talking to people, it's more people like well over 55 that are more pushed for this religious and moral stuff in this country than in a lot of white countries, not just Europe. I could think of New Zealand.
What white country? You speaking, not this one.
Oh, no, I'm saying compared to all the white countries in the world, I'm talking about New Zealand, Australia. Australia used to have guns, by the way. They changed something recently. By the way, it's also easy to get a gun in Finland, too.
Henry, you're going all over the place.
All right.
Go ahead and make your point, please.
Well, I think, if it was so great, even thinking now, why is even our friend there, who's a great analyst, he's not even living in this country, and he can't. I'm talking about Mr. Chapman.
Yeah.
And he also talks about when he lived in other countries, too, and I had talked to him on other shows.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me the differences between, even the social differences between over there and...
Well, Henry, all things being equal here, if we didn't have the Uniform Commercial Code, we didn't have the codified and statutory laws, if we didn't have the interstate commerce laws, if we didn't have the corporate government that they turned themselves into, as well as the state governments, I am talking about what this country should be versus what it has turned into. But here's the important point. It can be again. And the Constitution itself, it's got a few holes in it, well, big enough you could drive a tractor trailer through. The rudimentary or founding documents, there's nothing really that much wrong with them, but more importantly, they can be fixed. And we're only a country of, 233 years? We started out great. We had freedom and liberty and the right to contract and go about our business without governmental interference or heavy taxation, but all that has changed. If we're going to do comparison, hell, I could spend a week doing this stuff, and you as well could spend a week doing it. So
it's different interpretations of American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
That's basically what it used to mean and what it means today are two different things.
All right. I guess that's it. Thanks, Henry, for your call. Bill in Arkansas. Hello, Bill.
John Clement, how many times I got to tell you this is Alaska?
Oh. Well, if I've got an engineer that knows what the abbreviation for this...
AK.
Okay. Well...
That's Alaska.
Is that AK with a number behind it?
47.
I'm in error because he actually did put AK up there.
I figured it was on you. You're going to get blamed for everything.
Well, hey, eventually I will. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll just put it over on you.
By the way, a little short message to Henry.
Yes.
This is where we live. This is where we fight.
There it is.
That's simple. For a couple of years I've been watching this hate crime stuff. If I can just take a second. And my frustration has been that I've always believed you can't win the game by playing defense. And, those carnival things where you throw the ball and knock the stuff over, that's what I feel like we've been doing, is trying to duck the ball. And it frustrates me no end that I can't find some way, to go from defense to offense with these ADL criminals, organized criminals, whatever you want to call them. And I was just wondering if not only you, but Bob or Robbie or anybody else, is there some reason why we can't go on the offense against these guys instead of, sitting there watching them keep throwing these hand grenades at us until one of them finally sticks?
Well, Bill, I'll answer that question, and that was the same question I addressed on that radio program I did in Montana this morning. We don't have enough numbers.
Right.
Right now, this goes into a protracted guerrilla firefight. There's not enough of us.
Right.
And before we start tossing grenades around or pulling rounds off and putting them down range, I would feel much better if we had a lot more people that understood exactly what was going on. And if there happens to be a restructuring here and not a restructuring, let me put it to you this way, a restoration of law and order and constitutionality in this country.
Right.
This can be done very calmly, very quietly, very forcefully, but more importantly,